McCrory with Eddie Hearn. Eddie, good to see you as always, mate. Kell Brook, he's coming back. Why?
I think because, as you know, having been in the game and at some point walked away from the game, he's not ready. I don't think he's achieved what he should have achieved out of the sport. Kell's been a very frustrating person to work with as well. You know, he's had his problems in terms of discipline outside of the ring. I feel like he's grown up now. It's taken him a couple of years longer than expected, and I think sometimes that's how long it takes you. Kevin Mitchell was the same. You know, all this talent, but money and fame early in your life, and all of a sudden you think, wow, and you jack the lad and you've cracked it, and you can cut corners in camps and you can enjoy yourself outside of camps, and then sort of you realise life's not about that. Life's about achieving, providing for your family, securing a legacy, and that's the things that Kell has realised. And you know, he's been in two massive fights, and you know, obviously the Golovkin fight, which was won a little bit against the head, but the Spence fight was the one that hurt him, not physically but emotionally, because that was his belt and that was his people that he was fighting in front of. And you know, he took a lot of stick out of that fight, mainly from people who sit home on their sofas saying, I would have carried on. Do you know what I mean? When you go back and you look at the 10th round of the fight, he gave it everything with the injury, and at the end of the day he wasn't going to win from the position that he was in that fight. So he took a long time to get over that, I think, emotionally and mentally, because it hurt him, that defeat. And I think there were times where he wasn't quite sure what the future held, but after spending time out, he realised that he loves boxing and he wants to win another world title. He wants to get that back. He wants to prove people wrong. And that's why he's here. He's chosen a very tough fight against Rabchenko, because you would completely forgive Kell Brook for taking a gimme after Golovkin and Spence. But he wanted to prove to himself that he can still mix it at world level. Rabchenko has boxed at elite level, come up short. So we know what he is. He's a good world level gatekeeper. If you do a job on Rabchenko, you're ready for the big world titles, in my opinion. What you're going to get from Rabchenko is probably the things that you wouldn't necessarily want for Kell, which is someone that's immensely game, going to be walking him down, which is good in some respects. But if he's still doing that after 7 or 8 rounds, if the heart's not in it anymore from Kell Brook, you're going to find out against Rabchenko. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think it's a good fight, because it will give us all the answers we need to about the future of Kell Brook.
Yeah, there's certainly, you know, you can't take anything away from Kell. We know he's a good fighter from losing to the likes of Golovkin and Spence. But you've got to sort of say now, where are you going to take him? Because obviously he's looking at the super welterweight. You must have a plan for him. What's that plan?
Well, I do, and the plan is they're all bloody good, you know, and the problem at light middleweight, which is one of the reasons he took the Spence fight, is there isn't the marquee names. So he wanted to stay at welterweight for Spence, for Thurman, for Khan, for Pacquiao. And when you look at the 154-pound division, they're all very good, but their profile isn't really up there. You know, Lara, Hurd, Charlo, all outstanding fighters, but no big fights. At this stage, Kell Brook wants to win another world title, but he wants to also be in the biggest fights possible. So, of course, everyone flicks back to the Amir Khan fight. Now they're both with Matchroom and Sky. You'd like to think there's a better chance of that happening. By no means a certainty, because these two, you know. But I think, really, they're both at the stage now where they should realise that that is the fight for both of them financially, for legacy. And I think they'll both kick themselves if they finish their career without that fight.
It looks like the course is set. They're both comeback fights. They've both been out a while. They both need a win. They're both gonna, you know, hopefully get a win. Then is that the fight you're gonna make?
Well, it's a fight I'd love to make. You know, Amir didn't sign with us to fight Kell Brook. He signed with us to be in the biggest fights possible. For Amir at 147, there are more options. You know, there is Pacquiao, there is Horn, Crawford, there is Spence, there is Thurman, but probably none bigger than the Kell Brook fight. It's just a case of getting their head round the fact that, you know, on a smaller level, I've got something similar at the moment with Cal Yafai and Charlie Edwards, right? Where you say, Cal says, Charlie Edwards don't deserve a shot at my world title. You know what? He's probably right. But he's a Brit. There's a little bit of snapping at the heels. Could be quite interesting. But Cal, he won't entertain it. I want to fight the top guy. I don't want to fight. And there's a little bit of that from Amir and Kell in this fight. which is, rather than saying, let's be sensible about this, let's sit down, figure out a deal to make each other loads of money and give the British public a fight that they all want. Instead, it's more like, oh, I don't want to give him that. No, I'm not giving him that. And the amount of fights that I've been involved with and negotiated that can break down over the choice of a corner or the choice of a dressing room. Because sooner or later someone goes, no, I'm not doing it, out of principle. Do you know what I mean? When you think, are you mad? But that's what you're dealing with here, especially with two guys that don't like each other. And everyone talks about, you know, fake rivalries and fake beef. There's no fake rivalries here. They just don't like each other. Not to a physical hatred, but they just don't get on. They don't like each other. Amir feels that Kell Brook's not on his level, and Kell Brook feels that Amir's arrogant and should acknowledge that this is the fight that people want to see. So they've both got jobs on their hands. You probably think that the Greco fight for Khan is a little bit more routine than the Brook fights, but Khan's been out for 2 years. After a bad knockout, Brook's been out, you know, although he suffered an injury, he didn't take a beating in the fight. He just got outworked generally and out-bullied by the fitter guy, I think, because of the weight.
Good fight going on this weekend as well. What's your thoughts on Groves-Eubank?
Sort of gone a bit 360 on it all. I think Groves is the favourite in the fight. I mean, I see the odds make Eubank quite a strong favourite, which surprises me a little bit because Eubank's never mixed at that level. Groves, I don't think, is the fighter that he was, but he looks really sharp. And I do rate Shane McGuigan, and I rate George Groves as a fighter and as a thinker. And I just think they're going to have a great game plan going in. The game plan can go out the window in the first round or two, especially when you've got a young fighter who's applying the pressure like Eubank does. But also, they know what Eubank's going to do. It's not going to be any surprises. He's going to come out, he's going to try and force a vicious work rate, he's going to throw loads of punches, loads of combinations, and he's going to be very aggressive. But he's also going to do that with very little head movement and very little regard for what comes back from George Groves. And that's not wise against a puncher like George Groves. You know, Cox, of course, although it was a body shot, felt the power. Martin Murray said bigger one-punch power than Golovkin. Joshua Buatsy's been sparring with him, said great power in the gym. So Groves can really hit, he can punch, and he's clever. You know, he's not an idiot. He's not going to lose his head. This is a very experienced fighter. But if Eubank's the real deal, I think he will probably win the fight. But we don't know, do we? Like we talked earlier off camera, it's like, oh, he's this, he's that. But you know, I watch him sometimes on the pads and stuff like that, and I think, there's no one around you. No one's telling you what you're doing right or wrong. You're not moving your head. What do you do well? Well, what he does really well is he has a tremendous engine. He has zero fear. He probably has a great chin as well. But you can't just think you've got a great chin and walk into Groves getting hit flush on the chin. Carl Froch probably had the best chin in boxing, and he nearly got flattened by Groves in the first round. And Eubank will get hit like that because he's going to be coming on to Groves. He's not going to be trying to box him. And, you know, it's a fascinating fight.
You, more than anybody, and your family should know more about the Eubanks. What happens if Chris Eubank Jr. wins this fight? Because that's a fabulous story.
Yeah, he becomes a real player in the game, and he deserves it. You know, if he can't, I mean, they were really at a brick wall, the Eubanks, and this series come along and sort of saved them, really, and gave them the opportunity and a lot of money. But if he beats Groves, he deserves it, and he becomes a star of British boxing. And he's very exciting to watch. He may just be the real deal. He may go in, and I think it'll go one or two ways. I think he'll destroy Groves, or I think Groves will just completely outclass him and stop him. I don't think it'll be, you know, a real sort of nip and tuck, one's on top, one. I just think he may just come and completely overwhelm Groves.
You're putting your house on it?
No, if I was putting my house on it, I'd have to back Groves just because of the experience. But I wouldn't want to. You know, I wouldn't want to put my house on it. I mean, when you look at the Chudinov fight with Groves, he got hit a lot in that fight, but he was taking chances. He knew that Chudinov didn't have the power, and he decided to walk him down and try and stop him. And he was probably 2 rounds away from gassing. Do you know what I mean? But I think that I don't think Eubank was a puncher at middleweight, and I don't think he's a puncher at super middle, even though he's stopped that Yildirim with a concussive butt. He's not a puncher, and I don't think that's something Groves has to be worried about. The biggest threat for Groves is the work rate, because everyone knows Groves fades down the stretch. If it goes past 8 rounds, I favour Eubank strong in the back end of the fight.
Eddie, great talking to you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, pal.